So could you tell us a bit about how you got started? Like when was the first time you opened a video editor and got into this field altogether?
Okay, so this was long ago. I was in class 8th and I had discovered this software called Camtasia Studios. I still don't know if that's the right pronunciation or not, but I met this super cool guy in my hometown, and he used to make these tutorials online, and both of us were like 13 years old, and he pitched me this idea that we should start creating videos together.
And right now, I think you work with a bunch of brands. I saw you work with Cred also, right? Cred, Ankur Variku,
Yeah,
maybe Graphy
yeah,
to shoot their
Graphy
videos.
and Academy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. It's kind of interesting to see how you took small steps when you were 13, and then it just sort of builds up and compounds over time. Yeah, it's recording. Thanks a lot, Ayush, for doing this. Really admire the work you do. Love your Instagram. Love the work you're doing at Owl Media. And I think this video would be something super inspirational for folks interested in video editing, people interested in filming, people interested in video production in general. So could you tell us a bit about how you got started? Like when was the first time you started? When was the first time you opened a video editor and got into this field altogether?
Okay, so this was long ago. I was in class 8th and I had discovered this software called Camtasia Studios. I still don't know if that's the right pronunciation or not, but I met this super cool guy in my hometown, and he used to make these tutorials online, and both of us were like 13 years old, and he pitched me this idea that we should start creating videos together. So I didn't act on that idea like straight away, but I started creating my own videos. I had created a couple of gameplay videos before that, but like nothing substantial. I was super into gaming. So one day we got together and he came to my house and he pitched me this idea that we'll build this YouTube channel together and it'll like grow. And I'm like, yeah, this is super exciting. And both of us were extremely deep into YouTube. Both of us used to follow all these big YouTubers. And by big, I mean, for example, MKBHD, which was one of our like initial uh, how do I put it? Mentor would be very view and connected. So let's just say idol.
Yeah.
And MKBHD was at 80,000 subscribers then. And we were like, yeah, we have to build a channel which could hit like a million people or like 1 lakh people. So we started doing that. We made a channel. I think it got taken down within like a couple of months. We did some random shit. I don't even remember where we went wrong. But then we made this another channel that grew a lot, and by a lot we had about 2,000 subscribers. And there, so this is 8 9 years ago, and Google AdSense used to pay like a lot of money, 10x the amount that it pays like right now. So we were making good money as 13-year-olds. We were making 10 20,000 as a company. So it was really cool. And then we made like a blog, and then we learned SEO. We got a couple of guys, and it was a team. So it was a team of 4 5 people working on the blog. YouTube channel, it was just me and this other guy. And it started growing, and it started growing to a point where I didn't realize that you could actually make a revenue from online businesses. I mean, this is me from a really small town of Haryana, figuring out this new thing, and my parents are thinking that I'll go to jail because I'm doing some random shit online. So it was very cool. It was just extremely intriguing that you can make money online. So that's how I started my journey. I continued this till class 10th, 11th, and 12th. I took a break of sorts. M- to put to put this in another way, my partner took a break and he was like, I have to focus completely on uh, studies. And I was like, no, I think this is an integral part of my life, so I'm going to continue that. So we shut down the channel, we shut down the website. Biggest mistake ever. That website had tons of backlinks. We didn't know the idea of that
Oh.
how important like a domain name could be. But I
Mhm.
started my new YouTube channel, which is like my current YouTube channel. I was like, I'm going to make videos. So I made about 4 5 videos in 2 years. Not a lot, but I still continued that entire video making process. And now today, um, I'm making videos. I'm running a video production agency. We're doing AR solutions for brands. So that's the kind of journey from where I started to where I am right now. There were a lot of things in between. Fun fact: this is going off topic, but this co-founder of mine in the early days is also in BITS Pilani.
Oh,
He Pilani campus, same batch. So it's a very cool life circle sort of moment for all of us.
interesting.
Yeah,
That's yeah.
that's like the basic arc on how I sort of
So you had a
experience.
semi agency when you were 13. That's kind of insane.
Yeah, and we didn't realize how cool that is,
Hmm.
because we were just two kids who were, on our laptops and computers all day long, and we were creating impact back then. We just didn't know the impact that we were creating.
What kind of
I
videos
mean,
were you making at that time?
so we moved to tech reviews, and we were making tutorials and tech reviews. So these were anywhere from phone reviews to laptops to graphics card to gameplays, anything tech. We were super interested in it, and we were like nerds. And that's the kind of videos that we were making. Even till first year of college, I was making tech reviews. It's only in my second semester of first year when I realized that tech is not something which I like. I like the process of making a video. I like the process when I pick up a camera and shoot something. So that's when that transition happened. And but before that, tech reviews.
Interesting. So you said you took a break in 11th and 12th, and then you entered BITS. And I think, I don't know, I saw it somewhere you attribute a lot of what you are today to BITS. So how did BITS help you?
Okay, bits has been a super integral part of my journey. Firstly, I think so. I follow this quote that your network is your net worth. The people that you hang out with make a huge difference in your decision making, in the kind of conscience you have, how you approach problems, how you approach solutions in life. So when I went to bits, I realized that I was thinking my ambition was just very small. Like I wasn't thinking big. And I used to make these tech reviews, and then this one day this senior of mine came and he's like, you have a skill, but what you're doing with that skill is just this of what you could do. So he showed me what filmmaking could be. He didn't teach me, he just showed me. And I started making these other kinds of videos. I realized that, oh, you can also make money from it. I discovered freelancing for the first time. I knew the concept, but I never acted on it. But that was very interesting, that okay, I could do something tangible with this skill now, something bigger than a YouTube channel. Because YouTube, as great as the space is, it's very fluctuating, so it's very risky, and I'm the kind of person who loves to take risks but would also want some stability. So then I was devising a plan. Okay, I'll do freelancing also, I'll do YouTube also. So this idea of learning these new things, I attribute that to the kind of people I met in college. But more than that, on top of that, when you the feeling that big startups were formed in the same room that you are sleeping in every day, the network that bits gives you, the kind of environment that it provides you, it's so liberating that you tend to think bigger and bigger and bigger every single day, and there's so much to learn from people around you. So I think that helped me a lot.
Did you get time to sort of, focus on your filmmaking skills while at BITS, or was it sort of
Yeah.
academic heavy?
Not at all. I studied in my first year for sure. Like, so in my first year, I lived a very generic Bitcoin life. And when I say generic Bitcoin life, I don't mean it in a negative way, but in an extremely positive way, where I was in 5 clubs, I was in a department,
Yeah.
I was doing debating, I was doing festa, I was doing filmmaking, I was in the filmmaking club as well. I was in the I was in CL as well, just doing all sorts of things which came my way. And I've always associated with a lot of things. I've never been just a video guy, or I've never been just a this guy. So I was in everything, and I aced in my compres as well. So I thought, okay, this is easy. I mean, I
Wow.
can do everything and win at it. That was not true. So but by the end of second year, I realized that I need to cut down. My attention is divided into like a lot of things, and I'm not being able to go deeper into just one field, which is very important. We can talk about this. Like, I follow a T-shaped structure in my life. So I realized that there's a lot of horizontal growth happening, but there isn't a lot of vertical growth happening. So I need to figure this out. And by that time, I was discovering that okay, I am not enjoying Bitsian academic life. It's not something which is made for me. I don't like the way it's structured. So I was losing interest, and when I lose interest, I can't do anything out of interest. Sorry, I can't do anything where I'm not interested, in which I'm not interested in. So I think that was a point where I started looking back and I started cutting things down, and I just narrowed down to filmmaking and entrepreneurship. And I cut down on academics as well. I was just passing. I was just getting the base grades that I needed to get through. I wasn't learning. I was cramming. I was getting through with whatever little time I could. Uh, so yeah, I think filmmaking is. I learned filmmaking in Pilani. I started my freelancing in Pilani, and I attribute the kind of environment planning gives that it puts you in the middle of a desert, so you have tons and tons of time. You can't chill, you can't go out. So I ended up spending a lot of time with my laptop, and I just used to YouTube skills. I I've never taken a course. Never. I've never paid to learn filmmaking. I've always gone to YouTube, looked at all these resources, and I've started learning like that. So huge props to the kind of culture Bits offers.
Interesting. Well, it's the opposite in Goa. You have a lot of things to do, so can't really focus on one thing. What was your first freelancing gig? Maybe how much did you get paid for that?
Yeah. Okay. My first gig. I'm just okay. Yeah. I remember the first major gig. So I had started giving out employment before I started freelancing, which was really unique. So
Oh,
we hired three people for our first blog. They were writers and one SEO expert. So uh, that was nice. We also had like an intro made from freelancers, but I started freelancing in my first year, so I needed money to buy a new camera, and I wanted to upgrade my filmmaking equipment. So I did this. There was a small company in Delhi, and they asked me to make tech videos for them. So I used to ideate, do the voiceover, record everything in this room itself. Just I was paid 6,000 per video, which was very little money for the kind of work that I was doing. I was identifying the keywords. I was doing their publishing, resourcing, everything. It wasn't too bad though. I mean, it took me a month to create 10 of those videos, and I got paid 60,000 for the entire gig.
okay.
Uh, was really interesting. That was my first like major freelance gig. This was 2017.
That's interesting. And right now, I think you work with a bunch of brands. I saw you work with Cred also, right? Cred, Ankur Variku,
Yeah,
maybe Graphy
yeah.
to shoot their
Graphy and
videos.
Academy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool, man. It's kind of interesting to see how you took small steps when you were 13, and then it just sort of builds up and compounds over time. So maybe now we can talk about Owl Media, which is the video production agency that you started. Uh, what compelled you to start an agency? What compelled you to sort of gather a bunch of people, become a leader, and then start a full-fledged agency?
Okay, I think Owl. So Owl is a very new company. It's almost 7, 8 months old now. But in my head, Owl has been in the making for almost 9 years now. I've always known that I was going to take this step, but I just didn't know how and I didn't know when. And as you said, compounding. I'm a big fan of compounding. And usually, when you say the word compound interest, people usually attach it with numbers, but I feel it's the same with relationships as well, it's the same with skills as well. So I realized that all the things that I was learning since I was a kid, it gave me a muscle. It gave me a muscle to identify what works, what doesn't work, what is aesthetic, what is not aesthetic, what looks good, what is a flow, what is not a flow. All these things that are extremely subjective in filmmaking and in videos. So that muscle got developed. So I was able to so I was making very small leaps in the beginning, but when I got the opportunity to take a bigger leap, I was prepared for it. And I always questioned how was I prepared for it. It was all the times when I was working uh, on just random videos which didn't have any ROI. It was just me spending time on the editing software. So because now we were starting AR last year, and I was super demotivated. Ki yaar, you know what? Like all these big companies are doing such a crazy job in AR, and we are not able to deliver. And then I realized, I was just explaining it to myself, that it took you so many years to master, not even master, get to this particular level of video, which is not even like, in absolute terms, it's very little to what the big players in the world are doing. So I think I keep reminding myself that it's a very long term game, and your skill will compound over time, and you grow like 2x, 10x, 20x, like within a snap. You just need to like keep at it. So yeah.
Interesting. So, what would be your suggestion for, say, a college student who just learned how to, edit videos? Like, what's the next step? How do they sort of monetize on the skill?
Okay, don't focus on monetization.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think monetization is the thing to focus on. Focus on gathering the best experience. collect value, not rupees. Um, if you're getting to work with a really cool person, if you're getting to work with a really cool company, give learning priority over money when you're in college, until and unless you need money. I'm giving off a very privileged statement. If you need money, that's a different story. We can talk about that as well in the second part of the answer. But if money is not a requirement, don't tell me you need the money to go on a trip. That's not a good excuse. If you need the money for your existence, if there's need at home, only then go to the money route. Otherwise, collect value, work with the best people. It is so underrated. I don't remember who said this, but I was reading this article that people should give money to get internships in huge companies, because a lot of these companies give so much value, and just being around in a room with these people can, you can learn a lot from people. And I realized this the hard way. I was a lone wolf. I never believed in community, I never believed in teamwork. And it was only like 2 3 years ago when I realized I was doing a lot of things wrong in life. Collect value, do as much work as you can, do all kinds of work. Don't figure out what you want to do, figure out what you don't want to do, so that when that opportunity comes, you should be able to say no in a snap. So decision making becomes 10x stronger when you know what you don't want to do, because finding out what you want to do is a very tedious task, but finding out what you don't want to do is a slightly easier task. For people who, for whom making money is important, of course there are all these freelancing platforms like Upwork, Freelancer. They have never worked for me personally. I've always tried them, but they just never worked for me. So I always went the social media route, the emailing route. I believe in cold emails a lot. And I'll get to a very cool example of how cold emailing worked for me for Owl. But I used to cold email a lot of people that, hey, I have this, I'm gonna give out value. And initially, I don't propagate this a lot, but you can work for free. Just present people that um, this is something which I can do, and if you like this, either only pay me then or pay me on the second gig. So just try to reach out to people with whom you genuinely want to work with. Show them your value. If you don't have a portfolio, then work for free, build a portfolio, and then show them that portfolio, and then start working for them. People need creatives. Everybody, I know tons of founders who are like, yeah, we need a good video editor, we need a good UI designer, we need a good UX designer, we need a this, we need a that. There's a lack of like good creatives in the market. So approach people, show them value. One golden tip is, when you're working for somebody for free, make sure that you tell them that this thing is not worth zero. This thing is worth $500, for example, arbitrary number. Cut, I'm giving this to you for zero, because otherwise you set a market rate and you spoil the entire market for all the freelancers. Make sure you, even the big companies, it's a pricing technique which a lot of big companies use. They would give out a product for free, but they'll first title it as 1999, cut zero. Make sure you do that with your clients as well when you're offering work for free, when you're building a portfolio. Once you have a portfolio, approach companies, work. And even when you're making money now, always try to collect value. Matlab, it's okay to earn a little less but get like 10x amount of value from a project. So once you do this, it's about repeating the same thing again and again and again. And I think one day you get this opportunity, or one day you go out and grab the opportunity and you're ready to take that. um, just one wrapping up thought. This is one way to go about this entire journey, the thing which worked for me. And I think there are a bunch of routes to explore this. So whenever you're trying out something, make sure you listen to 20 different people and 20 different perspectives, because you don't know what will work for you.
Interesting. That's quite a good perspective, giving value even before you monetize a skill. Like, interestingly, the video editor who edits my videos now and the thumbnail maker, both of them cold email me saying, hey, your thumbnail sucks. This is how you can improve it. And these are the clips where you can improve. This is the background music you can use. So yeah, I think giving value can really improve the way the client sort of perceives you.
100%.
So recently you started working on your Instagram a lot. I saw that you put out a lot of Instagram reels and I love them, especially the reel where you're suggesting good YouTube channels to follow for travel filmmaking or something. I checked all of them out. They were great. So what prompted you to start making reels, and what do you think the ROI is, and why do you make reels?
Okay, so I have so when you're making content for the longest time, and I'm sure you know this as well, you know what will work and you know what will not work. And I've always had an intuition. Of course, you can never be like 100% right or wrong, but you can always put a bet that I put a 80% bet on this product or 80% bet on this video. All this time while I was creating content, I was creating content for the love of creating content. And I genuinely didn't care that if I was getting a return or not. Of course, I used to expect and I used to be happy when I used to get a return. But I never, expected a big return. I used to be like, if my Bitsin friends and audience watches my video, I am super happy. That's all I need to have a great day. When when the pandemic happened, COVID happened, I needed to sort of prepare that what am I going to do. All of my friends were getting jobs, a couple of my friends were doing great at their startups. So like I'm doing nothing. I've been just freelancing every now and then, but I don't have a plan, I don't have a structure, and I'm operating in a very loose manner. So but I did know one thing, that I have good stuff on my portfolio. So hence I started Owl. So that was one part. Then I realized another thing, that the kind of person that I am, I would always want multiple sources of income. Hence, I always saw content as an opportunity that you can tap into, and I understand content uh, a fair bit. So I realized that Instagram is a platform which could be really, really beneficial. YouTube is still very time consuming. I always place YouTube over Instagram, not to offend anybody, but I always feel the kind of value YouTube gives you, Instagram can never give you that value. uh, so it was this approach. So I started approaching Instagram and I was just making random things. Nothing was really working out. And I love the idea of giving back what I've gotten from a community. I've gotten everything from YouTube. So I realized people aren't sharing a lot of value on Instagram. So I started following these channels which were giving value. The Chris Doos of Instagram, who started like the entire carousel formats. People who were giving out value on reels or on posts, and reel was booming. Like Instagram reels were booming. So I thought, let's do a hypothesis where I'm giving out value, and at the same time I wanted to do something which doesn't take up a lot of my time, but it's still super valuable to the viewer. Now I have this Excel sheet of more than 100 YouTube channels. I realized this Excel sheet that I've made is a super valuable resource, and I could break them down and I could actually give it to the users. So it won't take me a lot of time to make these videos, but it will be super valuable for everybody who's watching the video. It's that quadrant in our work which says that less actual effort, high perceived effort in the when you
Yeah.
perceive work. So I was like, okay, it's very little effort for me, but it's extremely high value for a bunch of people. So it was a hypothesis and it worked, and I started sort of replicating that. Another thing which worked, and why I think it's very important, is um, your Instagram presence can actually make or break a lot of things. Um, it's our muscle now to Google people when we before we start working with them.
Yeah.
Um, and I've seen a lot of clients who come to my company's website, and which is a very very new website. There are 100 things wrong with that website because we haven't really gotten the time to sort of fix it.
Mhm.
But then they go to my profile, which is more flushed out, and there's a face attached to it. When you have social presence, you build trust. A company's landing page will never be able to build trust, but a face on a company's landing page is what builds trust. People don't trust computers, people always trust faces. So I think I realized that a personal brand is an extremely important entity, and it also gives me a secondary source of income. It also gives me a place to just vent out my creative juices. So yeah, it was a mix of everything, and luckily it's working out. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Associating a face with a brand just increases the credibility a lot and sort of builds trust. And especially in the B2B segment, right, where everything just depends on relationships. That's quite a fair point. Thanks a lot, Ayush, for doing this. Really appreciate you taking out time. And hopefully you might have inspired some more future video producers. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling me on this show of yours. Super interesting work you're doing. I saw your startup as well. Extremely inspiring. And yeah, thank you so much. I hope this information helps somebody.
Definitely.